Welcome back to Midnight Movie Club and my review of Antlers. So after 2 years of pushback after pushback, Antlers has finally hit theatres worldwide. And I am happy to report it was actually worth the wait for once. It's a solid creature feature. Antlers does what it says on the tin. Gives us some nice creature horror with a fair amount of antlers. So Antlers follows this teacher, Julia Meadows, as she builds this relationship with one of her students named Lucas Weaver. Lucas is clearly having problems at home. He definitely looks like a down and out himself. He looks like he's living it rough. And Julia really empathises with him. They have a little connection because of Julia's past. I won't go into it too much. But that's kind of like her motivation behind wanting to help Lucas so much. But in doing so, in helping him, she unwittingly sets something free, and it's a terror that just absolutely runs through the town and causes problems for everyone in this little sleepy Oregon town. Lucas isn't just hiding skeletons in his closet, something far scarier. It's a Wendigo. Now, Wendigos, I wasn't too familiar with them at all my whole life until I played Until Dawn. Loved that game and then was like, okay, I need me some more Wendigo content. Went out there and, there's really not that much. Especially when it comes to movies, there's not many very good Wendigo movies, if any, to be honest. So, I'm happy to say Antlers is the first one. Antlers is a solid Wendigo film, and since it is focusing on that and Antlers is the name, let's talk about the Wendigo a little bit. The creature design in this film is fantastic. Obviously Guillermo del Toro is involved producing, with Scott Cooper directing, and Nick Antkoska writing the screenplay. It was actually adapted from his short story The Quiet Boy. Check that reading out on my channel. I just posted it the other night. It's like an hour long reading of the short story. Very good story and pretty different from Antlers, with some similarities in there, but it's worth a listen. And all of them together just, I think, done a fantastic job with this one. And obviously that Del Toro influence, you know that you're going to get some good creature practical effects, and you get it here. I love the design of the Wendigo all the way through the movie, because we actually do see the Wendigo in a more humanoid form, like its traditional form. And then later on we see it, obviously, the film's called Antlers. There's then antlers involved as well. The antlers are more a modern thing that we've added on to the Wendigo. We must have thought that tales of these creepy, elongated, like skeletal creatures running about and mauling people in the woods wasn't scary enough, so we went and chucked a deer head and antlers on them. For me, the humanoid thing was enough. You didn't have to do the antlers, but okay, I'm cool with it because the creature design is very cool. Personally, I do like my Wendigos a little bit more on the humanoid side, like Until Dawn, and for me, I think that's why I found the first half of this film a lot creepier than the second half and the climax. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed them. They just weren't as scary. But the Wendigo itself in this film is great, and one of the things that I think does make this film scary in parts, it's not an overly terrifying film or anything like that, but there are certain scenes that will get you, and a lot of that is down to the sound design. The sound design in this film is absolutely fantastic. Even if it's just little rumbles off screen of something, just scuttling about in the house somewhere, or the wind whistling through the house, or a distant scream, it sounds like maybe a deer or something else. The sound design in this film is awesome, and they had this cool kind of creaking sound with the antlers, and I really liked it. It gave it that kind of woodeny creak floorboard kind of sound. It was really nice. The sound design always goes underappreciated when it comes to horror movies, but when they do them right, makes the movie so much better. And this is a case of that. If the sound design wasn't on point, it would have really let the movie down, but they smashed it with this one. Brilliant sound design. Now, apart from sound design making it creepy, there's actually a couple of really decent jump scares in here. I'm not too proud to say that I did actually jump, not once, but twice. and I won't say what they were or anything like that because I don't spoil anything in my reviews, but just know that there's a couple of good scares in there waiting for you if you haven't seen the film yet. It's not an overly jumpy movie or anything like that, but the tension does build nice, and at certain points it will catch you off guard. The creature, the Wendigo itself, isn't on screen all that much, but as we know with horror, that's never really a bad thing. I mean, looking back at Alien was on screen for all of 12 minutes, and it done more than anything else has done in any recent movie, really. So yeah, don't worry, there's not overly loads of amounts of creature action, but when it does come, it hits hard and it hits good. There's one point about, I would say it's the midpoint of the film really, where things really do start to ramp up a bit and the urgency picks up and you feel it, and it's just one really brutal, visceral scene. A scene where you think the camera would usually cut away, but it doesn't. It stays on it, and there's like no music. The score cuts out, and once again, it's that sound design and the performance of the actor himself that just makes it all really creepy. The screams of people in this film I did find rather disturbing, especially the first half of this film. It does have a really heavy atmosphere and heavy tone to it, where you will feel a little bit depressed and disturbed, and I think all this works really well to make you actually care about Lucas, because one thing I will say about this film is the plot is pretty paper thin, and character development is kind of non-existent actually. It's a bit of a weird one. Like, it's literally just a teacher just helping out a student, and then some shit happens with a monster. That's basically it. But that's all you really need to have a good time. But yeah, that stuff was a bit naff. There wasn't much going on with the plot or the characters, but you do empathise with them, especially Lucas. I just wanted to run up to this little guy and give him a hug. Oh my god, man, if your heart doesn't bleed for this wee boy, you're a sick bastard. Jeremy T. Thomas is the kid who plays Lucas, and I honestly thought he probably had the best performance of the whole movie. He really brought across that, abused and down and out vibe, and he always just looked super timid and scared and frail, and you really did just feel for him. Scott Hayes, who plays Frank Weaver, who's Lucas's dad, actually done really well as well. His body movements and his sounds and his grunts, yeah, that was a pretty good performance from him, and it was really up there with keeping like the first and kind of middle act alive of this film, because he was the one bringing all the scares and all the interesting stuff. Kerry Russell as Julia Meadows, I thought she was fine, not outstanding or anything like that, but likeable, and she'd done the character to the best it could have been done, I think, really. Jesse Plemons played Paul Meadows, the sheriff, Julia's brother, and I actually thought his performance was a little bit weird. I don't know if that was down to Cooper's direction, the way he wanted him. I do get that they had a bit of a rough past themselves, so they aren't exactly, functioning very normal people. They do have a strained relationship, and there's one point in the film where they're in a hospital, and there is a really emotional bit of dialogue between them that really does get a rise out of both of them, and I actually felt a little bit emotional at that, and I wanted more of that between them. But most of their interactions in the movie do come across a little bit flat and a little bit awkward. I really do wish we got a little bit emotion from their relationship, and a little bit character development with them both as well. The pacing for me was fine. I think for some people out there, especially the first act will be a little bit slow. It is a little bit of a slow burn before we get to that midpoint. But I thought it was great. I like it when my horror takes its time, and I just didn't mind spending time in this world, no matter how gloomy and depressing that it was. And mentioning gloomy and depressing, the colour grade in this film is really nice. Like, everything's really, washed out, but at the same time you get those hints of red, blue and green that just make things pop, and the odd little orange in there as well. The way they used colour, especially red in one way, was really nice. And a little bit of embers, they've got this little ember effect in certain scenes. You'll just know it when you see it in the movie. It was really well done, and the movie as a whole, the cinematography looked fantastic. The landscape shots, there's one shot where the police car's just going up the mountain through the woods on the road. You can't even see the road, you just see the lights lighting the way. It's beautiful, man. The movie looks really good. It's not very often you get a horror movie that looks that nice. I thought the score itself was decent, but for me, I felt like they could have done more with it. I don't know if it was the way it was used, but to me it felt too mystical and a little bit dreamy in places. I would have preferred something a little more in your face, a little bit more intense, a little bit more eerie. To me, it did feel almost like fairy tale like, which they do mention fairy tales and fables quite a bit, so maybe that's why. But for me, it was a little bit too light, and I would have just liked something a little bit more grungy and a little bit more, visceral to match those visuals. And on the topic of visuals and cinematography and stuff still as well, obviously the lighting is really nice. A lot of scenes are lit by like police siren lights, and they look fantastic. And there's a lot of with torches and flares getting thrown around and stuff like that, and super dark environments. And it's always good to keep your monsters in the dark, but they do light them up in interesting ways that I thought really worked. All in all, really, Antlers is a solid creature feature with great sound design, awesome practical effects and gore, a little bit of CGI in there, but it's not overused. Paper thin plot, pretty paper thin characters too, apart from Lucas, who you will care about, and that's probably what matters most. But yeah, overall, I actually really enjoyed Antlers. It met my expectations. It didn't absolutely blow them out of the water or anything like that. It was pretty much what I was expecting from the trailers. As you know, we broke it down on the channel, and when you do things like that, you do kind of put a picture together in your head, and this was kind of what I had pictured, and I thought it was a really nice retelling of the short story that it was based on. I will probably cop this one on DVD when it comes out, Blu-ray or 4K, whatever it comes out in. So my final rating for Antlers will be a 4 out of 5. I do have my problems with it here or there. Some of them are spoilery though, so I don't really want to go into them as I keep all my reviews non-spoiler. But I probably will do a video on the Wendigo soon, specifically the Wendigo in Antlers, because it's so different from the traditional Wendigo that we know in Native American folklore. So yeah, that's going to be a totally other video, and we'll get into that, and I'll mention spoilers and that and stuff. So yeah, if you enjoyed this review, please do leave it a big thumbs up, and if you are new here, subscribe to join the club. As I said, go check out my reading of The Quiet Boy. It will set you up nicely for going to see Antlers, or it'll probably cool you down nicely after seeing the film, or scare you shitless to the point where you can't sleep. Plus, who doesn't want to hear a creepy story with this buttery smooth voice, eh? I'm such a fucking amateur. Anyway, I hope you all have a lovely night and a great Halloween. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one. See ya.